Folks, hello and welcome to Tavern Chat. I am your host, Eric Tenkar, your bartender in the OSR, your main proprietor at the Tenkar's Tavern blog. So, before I delve into today's Arduin bit of interesting goodness, um, I'm sorry, Michael, I'm going to screw up your last name because I don't think I can pronounce it without having it written out in front of me. But Michael H. of TSR, the new TSR3, had a productive conversation earlier today. And it was interesting. I think we found an area or areas of commonality, and we'll see what comes of it. So maybe I'll have more to talk about tomorrow on Talking Crit with Bad Mike and I believe Douglas Cole. Douglas uh, did the Dungeon Grappling book, right? Uh, which, if you've ever tried to do grappling using any of the original rules that were published for D&D or anything of the sort, you'll know that they fucking sucked. I haven't found grappling rules yet in Arduin. I haven't. I'm still digging through my stuff. Again, I've owned it for years, but it was more like, oh, I've bought it and now I get to put it on my shelf because I'm completing my collection because I'm a collector. Then I had to pull out my PDF so I could save my eyes. So, moving on. Notes on alignment and playability. Okay. Now, this is from Dave. For whatever reason, many people are afraid to use chaotic characters in a game. Now, mind you, this is when you had basically three alignments, right? Lawful, neutral, chaotic. Very much Michael Moorcock type of thoughts. But in any case, this was almost too silly to think about, or so I thought until I saw so many people who never used anything but lawful types. All right? Investigating, I found out the most frequently given reason was this: the old rule about what percent of treasure was what alignment. I'm assuming he's talking about magical swords or intelligent swords. Well, the simplest way to fix that was to make the treasures 30% lawful, 30% neutral, 30% chaotic, and 10% amoral or unaligned. Still, I saw people literally afraid to venture on an expedition with a chaotic party. So, for all those people, here is a little reality concerning alignments. Law does not mean good, chaos does not mean bad, and neutral certainly does not mean deliberately in between. So, I'm going to comment as we read some of Dave's words here because I think they're interesting. I don't necessarily agree with all of them, but it's a much better coverage of what alignment is or was than what was jammed in the books back then. Law is a state of mind that has many meanings to many people, the only sure definition being that it is order. That is to say, that lawful beings adhere to a set of rules and regulations that are generally, but not always, laid down by a seat of power, either political or religious, as it is to the benefit of that power for there to be peace, order, and servitude among those whom they oversee. Those rules generally prohibit murder, mayhem, rape, arson, muggings, and the like. In fact, these laws usually try to maintain equanimity. I think I Gaxian word, if ever there was one, among the people, either by strict equality for all, as in socialist Sweden, here on Earth, or by strict class distinction, as in feudal England. One must also remember that in Nazi Germany there were strict laws, and that the German people as a whole were what you would have to call lawful. So too were the inquisitors of the Holy Roman Church during the reign of terror in Europe in the 16th century. So when you use a lawful character in the future, think about just what that means and in what context as far as the game is concerned. And that's a very good point. Lawful did not necessarily mean good. We all assumed it did, right? But if it's going to be good, we just say you're good. Why is it that good and evil were not part of the original alignment system that was presented in White Box, right? It was law and chaos. All right? Lawful and chaotic. Why? Why not just call it good and evil? Because I suspect you didn't want to restrict characters that were, quote, lawful to having to always be good. So, by simple reversal, when we see that chaos is merely a lack of order and as such is not inherently bad, imagine a truly democratic society and you have the archetypical chaotics. You're still following rules, right? If you're going to actually vote on everything in a democratic society and you follow those rules, those laws, I don't know if that's quite a perfect example. As for neutrals, well, they have some rules, but not a lot, and are open to suggestions and amenable to change. They adapt to all situations. My view of neutrals is not, again, oh, well, we got to balance law and chaos. We got to balance good and evil. No, no. True neutrals are your average working Joe and Jane. All right? These are the peasants that work the field. These are the commoners. They don't care about your politics. They don't care about law and chaos. They care about putting food on their table and a roof over their heads and helping their family survive and getting another crop in the field or baking the next day's loaves or whatever. They have more important things to worry about than law and chaos, right? That's adventurers worry about that because they don't have anything else to fucking worry about. Now, if, however, you insist on a hard and fast rule, go by this little story. A party of three went into a dungeon. One was chaotic, one was neutral, and one was lawful. During the course of the expedition, they caught a troll, and that's amazing because my players very rarely took prisoners. It was always kill everything. But I guess this party is a bit more good. And they were discussing what to do with him. The lawful adventurer said, tie him up and let's move on. The neutral said, no, let's put a rope around his neck and let him be our point man and open all the doors and test for all the traps. It's like I'm reading a parable from the Bible. The chaotic said, phooey, let's torture him and see if he knows where there's some treasure. At this point, an amoral spider came around the corner and ate all of them. Now, I'm going to step away from this for a second. I think that Dave doesn't really do himself great justice with this story, as much fun as it was, because the lawful characters like tie him up and let's leave, and the chaotic character is let's torture him, which is a good act, which is an evil act. Torture is almost universally evil, so I don't think that was pretty much a good example of this story. But in any case. Just remember, though, things are never so cut and dried, as each character will have limiting factors which will probably change with dismaying rapidity during the course of a few expeditions, which is why I always hated the AD&D alignment system that was so kind of rigid, because a lot of times your character's alignment grows or changes as you learn to roleplay your character as they evolve. So a simplified alignment, 3-point, 5-point, I think works better. I think the 9-point was a bit excessive. Evil is a measurement not of how bad a person is, but of what the prevailing society says is bad. All right, Societies change with time and geographical distances. If your government says that pornography is evil and you believe in what the government says, then to you, pornography is evil. Remember, too, that at one time, it was evil for a person to be a Christian. At least that's what the Romans believed. Besides, wouldn't you really like to go on a run where, if you really got tired of that turkey cleric bad-mouthing you for goose in the Amazon, you could step up behind him and pop his lights out with your family heirloom, a genuine nickel-plated warhammer. Try it. Who knows? You may like it. Never recommend inter-party strife. Now, the use of characters that are chaotic or exotic, just another way to put life back into a game that could get boring if played too cautiously and similarly all the time. So be a bit adventurous and take a troll to lunch today. Interesting take on alignment. It's an interesting view on it. I don't agree with it all, but it makes you think. And I still remember reading an article in Dragon magazine way back in the day. And I believe the example was St. Cuthbert. And you could have two churches of St. Cuthbert. One's the Orthodox Church of St. Cuthbert, one's the Reformed Church of St. Cuthbert. And these churches might both see themselves as lawful good, but they both see the other church as heretical. So the other church, to their eyes, is evil, and their protect evil spells will work against clerics of the offending church. An interesting take. Even if you don't agree with all of what Dave says here, and I don't, it makes you think that alignment should be a bit more either integral or removed from the game. But as given, it was more hindrance than help, I think. And I think Dave's trying to explain that. Folks, as always, we are in the midst of the world of the pandemic. I ask you, I beg of you, use your common sense. That's it. I'm not saying get vaxxed, don't get vaxxed. I'm not saying wear a mask, don't wear a mask. I'm not saying any of that shit. I am saying use your common sense to keep yourself healthy, your loved ones, your family, your friends. Be safe, be well. God bless. Roll those dice. And God willing, 8 p.m. tomorrow, Talking Crit with myself, Bad Mike, and our special guest, Doug Cole, Dungeon Grappling author extraordinaire. All right, folks. Look forward to seeing you then. Laters.